I genuinely believe that 50 to 100 years from now, Ghana is going to be one of those top African countries that will be unbelievably successful and would have achieved a lot much more than the majority of the other African countries. The reason I say so is because the Ghanaians probably have some of the most functioning institutions on the African continent as a whole. I'm not saying that institutions in Ghana are perfect. They are very, very flawed. But I'm saying comparatively, relative to the other African countries in and around Ghana, I think the institutions in Ghana are way more, should I say, serious, are way more advanced, are way more efficient in their functioning than other African countries. And I think that the functionality of institutions, the efficiency of institutions, the overall effectiveness of institutions is a very, very significant indicator of economic progress in that country. Everything we do in a country is built on the strength of that country's institutions. If the institutional framework is leaky, every attempt at development is just going to drop right through or filter right through the sieve that cannot hold it. So Kamala Harris lands in Ghana, and there's a press conference she gave alongside the Ghanaian president, which is very, very interesting for many reasons. Not least of which is the fact that the now popular, inescapable matter of the LGBT was brought up.
Thank you both for taking the time. Zolan Kano-Youngs from the New York Times. Madam Vice President, you have made clear that the message of this trip is centered on a collaborative future. At the same time, the Biden administration committed to calling out any foreign government that advanced anti-gay legislation or violates human rights. All three of the countries that you are visiting on this trip have advanced or proposed anti-gay legislation. Ghana has proposed a bill that would imprison those that engage in same-sex intercourse. Gay sex remains a crime in Tanzania, and same-sex relationships are outlawed in Zambia. What have you said to the president and plan to say to other leaders on this trip about this crackdown on human rights?
And for Kamala Harris, it was very relative. It was a very, very easy answer to give because the position of America is very, very clear on the matters of LGBT.
Raise this issue, and let me be clear about where we stand. First of all, for the American press who are here, you know that a great deal of work in my career has been to address human rights issues, equality issues across the board, including as it relates to the LGBT community. And I feel very strongly about the importance of supporting the freedom and supporting and fighting for equality among all people, and that all people be treated equally. I will also say that this is an issue that we consider, and I consider, to be a human rights issue, and that will not change.
For Nana Akufo-Addo, it was a bit of a slippery slope because he is between hell and high water. On one hand, you know the US is very, very clear on their position on the LGBTQ issues. And you also know that, like they have promised to do with Uganda, they probably would not side with a government that does not allow this LGBTQ rights, right? And of course, Nana Akufo-Addo wants, you're in need of the partnership between the US and Ghana, which I imagine spans many different sectors and many different areas, which are crucial for the development of Ghana. So he wants that. But on the other hand, he also knows the sentiments of Ghanaians in general when it comes to this LGBT stuff. I think the Ghanaians have made their voices very, very clear. Even if it was not clear before, when you listen to the Parliament of Ghana, just like the Parliament of Uganda, you will notice that the Ghanaians are very clear on where they stand as far as LGBT issues are concerned. And these are two clashing and opposite ends. And Nana Akufo-Addo is in the middle. And so he has been put on the spot and he has to give an adequate reply that will neither displease Kamala Harris nor his own people and his parliament. He answers the question in three main points. One, he says there's no such law. There is no such law in Ghana.
We don't have any such legislation here in Ghana. A bill has been proposed to the Parliament of Ghana, which has all kinds of ramifications, which is now being considered by the Parliament. It hasn't been passed, so the statement that there is legislation in Ghana to that effect is not accurate.
Ghana. We have not passed a law prohibiting the LGBT, QIA, and all of those things. There's no such law. And secondly, there's only a bill that is currently under consideration by the Parliament. So it is not a law, but a bill that is being considered by the Parliament.
The bill is going through the Parliament. It's going through the Parliament. The Attorney General has found it necessary to speak to the committee about it regarding the constitutionality or otherwise of several of its provisions, and the Parliament is dealing with it.
The bill is being considered by the Parliament, and it's going through all of the necessary procedures that every bill has to go through in every functioning democracy before it's being passed to law. So now it's just a bill. There's nothing serious about it. And then the third one, and this is where there's a bit of a problem. He says, when the bill gets into my hand, because of course when the Parliament is done passing the bill, the President, which is the head of the executive, now has to execute it and pass it into law.
At the end of the process, I will come in.
So he basically says, I cannot do anything about it until it comes into my table, until it comes into my own hands as the chief of the executive arm of government. So when it comes into my own hands, then, I can see what to do about it. The third point is very tricky because he's basically saying, at this point, I'm powerless to do anything. But somewhere down the line, that bill is going to come into my hands. And then at that point, I can have the power to do something about the bill. And so this is where the Parliament of Ghana got a little bit concerned.
The bill will be passed. This is the word to His Excellency the President. There is no way he can intervene. That answer he gave. That is now before Parliament. And when he gets to a stage that he will come in. Hey, please. This is legislation. This is not execution. Wait until we pass it and then we direct you to execute it. That is when you come in. That is why we are representatives of the people. So in terms of law, which is part of policy, we finalize it. And then the executive now have the authority to implement it, to execute it.
Now, to understand the concerns of the Speaker of Parliament here, we need to understand something about the arms of government, the way they work in a democratic country, right? So the government is separated into three arms: the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. The decisions of the Parliament are not yet law until they are formalized by the executive. So the executive executes the law. Once the President signs, that bill from the Parliament instantly becomes the law of the land. So the Parliament makes the law, the President executes the law, and then the judiciary, which is headed by the Supreme Court in most countries, I believe in Ghana is the same thing, is in charge of interpreting the law, administering the law, making sure that it is applied in a variety of scenarios as they may see fit. So this is how it works in a normal country or in a democratic country. The complicated part here is that in some countries, the president has the right to veto a law. To veto a law means that the president can unilaterally, without consulting anybody, decide to stop the bill from being passed into law, refuse to sign it to become a law. And this is done in order to ensure checks and balances between the three arms of government. So it is quite possible that Nana Akufo-Addo would have the right. I don't know if that's actually applicable in Ghana. I've not been able to find clear sources. But the ones I've found say yes, but I'm still skeptical until I read maybe the Ghanaian constitution. But it's quite possible that Nana Akufo-Addo could, when the bill from Parliament lands in his office, he could suddenly decide, you know what, I'm not going to sign this bill. I'm going to exercise my right of veto to decide against signing this bill. And this is why the Speaker of the House of Assembly is worried. And he is saying that once the bill gets passed to the parliament, to the president's table, once the bill gets passed to the president's table, the president will have no choice but to sign it. He's saying we will not give the president any choice. He has to sign the bill. He must sign the bill. And again, the problem is, it's quite possible that the president has a veto right, a right to decide against signing the bill at all, a right to decide not to sign the bill. So when Nana Akufo-Addo said that he has no power over the bill until he lands in his office, it immediately sets trigger warnings to the Parliament of Ghana.
That answer he gave, that is now before Parliament. And when he gets to a stage that he will come in, hey, please. This is legislation, this is not execution.
And so the Parliament is letting him know right now that you are going to sign the bill. It is not, we're not asking you. This is the will of the people that is being passed on to you. Now, is he going to sign it or is he not going to sign it? I cannot say for sure. I can only say from his speech that he trusts the Parliament to do their duty, and I believe he's going to sign it, even if it's against the interest or the desires of the foreign diplomat who was at his side at the time. I don't know what you guys think of all this debacle. I want to know what you think of all of this. I want to know what you think. I think it's very interesting, and I think that the Ghanaians have managed to build a system where there's actually checks and balances, and for that reason I'm supremely proud of the Ghanaians. So guys, I don't know, it's my first video on this channel, so if you like it, leave a like, tell me what you think, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.